Hi, I'm David Davis from ActualTech Media, excited to be here at the headquarters of Backblaze. I'm joined by Andy Klein, who's the Director of Product Marketing. How you doing, Andy?
I'm fine. How you doing, David?
I'm doing great. So I'm a Backblaze customer, love the product myself, and one of the things that I know that Backblaze is really known for is something called Drive Stats.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Drive Stats. What is it, and how did it start?
It started back in 2013. We were actually collecting the information for all of the hard drives that we had in our system, but after 30 days we would just release it because we didn't need it anymore. Back then we started keeping it back in April of 2013. And what we found is after about a year or so, we could start to see patterns in the data. We could start to see things like failures that were occurring over time. We also collect all of the smart stats that go along with each drive, and we could start to do some analysis. And so that's how it started. And then about a year after that, sometime in 2014, one of our engineers came up with the idea of saying, well, maybe we should tell people about this.
Yeah.
We went around and around about that, saying, because that's kind of who we are. We like to tell people about how things work inside of Backblaze. And so we wrote a little blog post and said, hey, this everything you needed to know about drives, and maybe which drive would you want to be interested in buying. And it took off from there. I started talking about things like how heat in hard drives and how heat affects them. Started comparing even consumer drives versus enterprise drives, and it's just snowballed from there. After a couple of those, because he's an engineer and he's much better doing that, I took over starting writing about the hard drives, and we've been doing it about once a quarter ever since.
Okay, so this is a long report that covers in detail drive statistics. Is it across multiple drive vendors?
Yeah, it is. It's all of the drives that we have in our data center. That's obviously all we can do, but it is an analysis of when they came in, how long they stayed, if they failed, what their failure rate, something called an annualized failure rate, which is really important to us because drives are always entering and leaving the system, right? Mm-hmm. So annualized means we can look at a number at any time, whether the drive's average has been 2 or 3 months or whether it's been 2 or 3 years, and get a sense of how good that particular model is performing in our environment. 1 or 2% failure rate, annualized failure rate a year is great. 14, not so good.
Right. How does it help customers?
I think one, it's just who we are. It's our transparency. We've been doing that ever since we started publishing the data about, for example, our storage pods a long time ago. We told a story about once how we almost got acquired. We started talking about something called drive farming that we did back in 2011. It's just who we are to tell people how our systems operate, so they're comfortable with who we are, and the fact that, look, they're giving us the most precious thing they have, their data. Okay, maybe their children, but pictures of their children and pictures of their family and all of those things. And so they have to be comfortable with who we are, and that's why we want to let them know how well we're doing in protecting their information.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I mean, it really shows that you all take this very seriously and that you're experts when it comes to this topic. I mean, if I were buying a hard drive, are the drive stats something that I could use to help me make a better buying decision?
Some people think so. We'd like to say that it's part of what you should use. Okay, it's certainly, our environment is unique. It's unique to our data center and such, but it's probably sitting inside of a hard drive, a system like this, there's not much going on in there. It's air conditioned in the data center. They're not going anywhere. They're not in an external drive unit that you have stored in a closet somewhere or under the bed or whatever, or you just kicked across the room. So our environment is pretty static, but it's a great piece of data that people can use. Certainly they should look at reviews for different drive models. Maybe they're price sensitive and maybe they have to look for something a little less expensive. They can compare consumer drives versus enterprise drives, those types of things. And we've done a lot of that to try to enlighten people about what's different. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is not to just have one copy of your important stuff, to have multiple copies. We talk about having 3. Copy on your computer, for example, maybe on an external hard drive, and then another copy in the cloud. And that's the most important thing you can do.
Well, thank you so much for this insight into the drive stat. information that publishes over on the Backblaze blog. Really appreciate your time today, Andy.
Thank you very much.